Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel, and today we've got a little bit of news. It's not so much news, it's in a lot of ways it's confirmation of things that we already knew. But we've got some updates regarding Final Fantasy VII Remake and Final Fantasy XVI, so don't forget to drop a like on the video and subscribe for future content, but let's get to it. So the first bit of news is regarding Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, to be honest. And about 2 weeks ago, Naoki Hamaguch came out and said that he'd been inspired by Horizon Zero Dawn, as far as like visuals and aesthetics and world building and things like that goes. Now, it could just be an offhanded comment, it could just be referring to the cinematics, which it does seem like that could be a major thing. But one thing that it does open up is the possibility that when it comes to the open world, they take some inspiration from some of the areas that are in Horizon Zero Dawn. And a lot of the areas in that game are massive, open, kind of like, I suppose countryside is the right term for it. But yeah, massive open areas, loads of detail, loads of little nooks and crannies that you can get to and secrets hidden in the areas. And could that be something that they use as a template as far as the rest of Final Fantasy VII Remake and the open world goes? Because we're not going to get an open world like we did in the original games. That's out of the window. That's just not going to happen. And one of the main alternatives for that is for it to be either interconnected areas between each of the main places. So like between Calm and the Chocobo Farm, there's an interconnecting area. Either that or large areas for each continent. So say the continent that Midgar's on, the main continent, would be one of these large areas similar to Horizon Zero Dawn's open area. And then you've got different locations within that you can go to, such as Calm, the Chocobo Ranch, the Mithril Caves, Fort Condor, Junon, all of that on the one continent in the one area. And if it does turn out that those areas are going to be inspired by Horizon Zero Dawn and done in the same sort of way, then, we could be looking at quite an impressive world that gets built going forwards in Remake. So it was a very interesting comment. I do think it's more to do with cinematics, because it's a very cinematic game, Horizon Zero Dawn. Like the facial expressions, some of the camera work, everything like that. And I feel like that's what he's referring to more. But there is the possibility that they take some of that inspiration and put it into the actual world building rather than just the cinematics. At least I'd like to hope. And then we come to Final Fantasy XVI. Now, this has come out in the last 24 hours. The Hamaguchi comment, I was just going to kind of leave that. I spoke about it on Twitter briefly, but I wasn't going to do a video about it. But considering we've got two small little pieces of news that don't really get a video to themselves, I thought, why not throw them together? But this one, like I say, more recent. So this has happened in the last 24 hours, and it's Naoki Yoshida, the great Yoshi P, as everyone refers to him. He's come out and confirmed a few more details regarding Final Fantasy XVI. Now, these are things that we'd mostly already picked up from the trailer, but there is a little bit more in there, so let's get into it. Now, the first of these is that the story's seemingly going to take a darker, more mature approach to its narrative. And Yoshida basically says, we've all grown up with Final Fantasy as a franchise, and when you become an adult, you go through certain things, you experience certain things in life, certain hardships, and he wants to make a game that people can enjoy and get something out of and think about while still being grounded in that reality and some of those experiences that people have had. So it definitely looks like what we're going to be getting is something that's definitely on the more mature, darker side. And we'd already picked that up from the trailer. Some of the shots in the trailer instantly give away that there is a more mature tone to this game. And, it looks like it could be really good. I'm very interested in this kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always been dark undertones and dark themes in Final Fantasy games. But it looks like they're really going to try to double down on that in this one. And, yeah, it could be really good depending on how they deliver it. Now, the next thing that Yoshida confirmed in this interview is that the game is going to be entirely action-based. It's even going to have an easy mode to cater for people who can't really play action RPGs or who prefer to just enjoy the story. Now, as far as the easy mode goes, I mean, fair enough, it should be there anyway, just as an accessibility thing for people. But I think this is potentially Square Enix misconstruing or misunderstanding the problem. A lot of people, myself included, prefer Final Fantasy as it was. The majority of the franchise is turn-based RPGs, or some variant of the turn-based RPG system. There's only been two mainline games, 3 if you count Final Fantasy VII Remake, that are action games. They're the only 3. No other game in the series has got anything to do with action RPG. So, understandably, a lot of people have been feeling a bit lost because of that, because, Final Fantasy isn't what Final Fantasy was to them, and I feel the same. I do feel this way. I do feel like this change is detrimental to Final Fantasy, in my opinion, but it is what it is. The only problem that I've got is I almost feel like this easy mode's being put in to kind of put those complaints to bed, and they're missing the point of the problem entirely. The problem isn't that, action RPGs are difficult. They're not difficult. Not any more difficult necessarily than a turn-based RPG. The problem is it just isn't what we're used to when it comes to Final Fantasy. It isn't what we've come to expect from Final Fantasy. So if they're using this easy mode as some kind of way to, put people at ease who prefer the turn-based games, I don't think it's going to do that. And I don't think most people who use it, I still haven't played Final Fantasy VII Remake on Classic mode, because what's the point? That's not the main system, that's easy mode, and I don't really want that. I don't need to play the game on easy, I just need to play the game, and if the game isn't what I'm used to, then the game isn't what I'm used to. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm just a bit concerned that the easy mode is some way of kind of shifting that a little bit, or fixing, trying to fix that, and it's not going to work if that's the case. But the other thing is, with the game now being confirmed as predominantly, well, only action-based, does that mean we are only going to have the one character? Because in the trailer, we only saw one character, granted at different stages, but it was just the one character. And if that does turn out to be the case, and we only control one character throughout the game, that is a massive deviation from what we've experienced in Final Fantasy in the past. Only one character that we're controlling, and fully action-based combat. This is a big gamble, and it's going to be interesting to see, how they deliver on this game. But what about you? What do you think about any of these comments that have been made in both of these interviews? Do you think we are going to see massive continent-sized areas, or do you think we're going to see smaller interconnecting areas in Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2? And what do you think about Final Fantasy XVI seeming to step away from a lot of the things that have made Final Fantasy as far as gameplay goes? Don't forget to drop your thoughts in the comments below, drop a like on the video and subscribe for future content, but more importantly than anything, have a great day.